প্রতিদিন সংসদ বাংলাদেশ টেলিভিশনের সম্প্রচার দেখুন সিনে বাংলায়। নিয়োগ সময় প্রতিদিন সকাল ৬টা এবং বিকেল ৫টায়।
প্রিয় দর্শক, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমি শামীমা হোসেন স্নিগ্ধা। আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি আমাদের নিয়মিত আয়োজন ইউএস ইমিগ্রেশন সংক্রান্ত বিষয়ক অনুষ্ঠান ইউএস ইমিগ্রেশন উইথ ব্রেটস কোভেন। দর্শক, আমাদের সাথে নিয়মিত উপস্থিত আছেন অ্যাটর্নি ক্যারি এবং অ্যাটর্নি আইলিন। হ্যালো ক্যারি, হাউ আর ইউ?
Great, Shamima. Thanks for having us.
Welcome to the show. And hello Eileen, how are you? Welcome to the show to you too.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. দর্শক, আপনারা আমাদেরকে যে কোনো বিষয়ে সরাসরি প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন ইমিগ্রেশন সংক্রান্ত এই নাম্বারে 718-389-9600। আপনারা আমাদেরকে বাংলায় এবং ইংরেজিতে যে কোনো ভাষায় কোয়েশ্চেন করতে পারেন। আমি আপনাদেরকে অনুবাদ করে জানাবো আপনাদের কোয়েশ্চেনটি। Okay, Carrie, comes to you. We just know that immigration reform, it's happening. So is there any news for our community?
Sure. Everybody is speaking about immigration reform these days, and everybody wants it to happen, and we need it to happen. Back in 2012, the Senate passed a great comprehensive immigration bill that would have afforded people that have been here in many years without certain criminal histories right to live and work here, to travel, and eventually get a green card, a long path. But it went nowhere in the Congress. It's dead in the Congress. So Obama has been talking about using his executive powers. He's basically the chief policeman, right? And he can decide who he wants to deport and not to deport. So he used his executive powers also 2 years ago to do deferred action for childhood arrivals, what everybody calls DACA. And the rumor is that he will do something like that for a greater group of people, perhaps people who have been here since January of 2010 or January of 2012. And he will do that sometime between the elections that we're going to have in a couple of weeks and the end of the year. There also may be something else called parole in place, which is a little complicated, but that would allow people who entered the U.S. illegally to be able to do a green card in the U.S. based upon marriage or an employee petition without having to leave. So those two things would really help the immigrant community, especially the Bangladeshi community. But we don't have that yet. We only have his word that it's coming sometime between November and the end of the year.
So it's nothing in written at this time?
No,
no law has been implemented.
Just a promise from the president.
Okay, what is the like reform you think for our community that's family-based, like for the families? We know there are families that has been deported previously, but their children are here as a citizen. So these peoples, this is like in a very complicated matter for the
Yeah,
families.
it's really sad when you see families separated and deported. The good news is, although the Obama administration is deporting record numbers of people, over 400,000 this year, that's a record. No other
Right.
president has done that. He has concentrated on criminals, sexual predators, gang members, violent felons, drug traffickers, fraudsters.
Right.
And he's also recently concentrated, sadly, on the children who have just got here, childhood arrivals.
Exactly.
But everybody else is not a target right now. So if you even have a deportation order that's 10 years old and you're still living here, the likelihood that you're going to be deported under this administration is almost zero.
Okay.
So that's really good news. That's kind of recognized that that our enforcement resources are limited. Let's focus on a certain group of people. So I would say for the average person who's overstayed their visa, has a deportation order, no criminal history, and they're here, they really shouldn't be living in fear the way they were 10 years ago under the Bush administration, where anybody could be picked up and deported. That's really not happening right now.
So basically, it's a good news for them.
That's very good news, yes.
Okay, so that's kind of relief actually for Bangladeshi community. As far as I know, there are many people who are suffering from it. As we see, many people has been got deportation order,
Right.
and have kids.
What has come up a lot, and I think because the government has become a little bit more sophisticated in the way they check things, and now when you travel, you have to do your fingerprints. What has come up an awful lot, and has affected a lot of my clients from Southeast Asia, is, and this is a typical scenario, somebody came to the U.S. in one name, they filed for asylum in that name, they didn't get it, then in their real name, they married somebody, got their green card, and now it's 20 years later and they're thinking about citizenship, and they're worried, and rightfully so, that this older case is going to come back up. Or they traveled, and when they traveled every year for many years, but all of a sudden this year when they traveled, they got stopped at the airport and they were asked about that original case. So this is an issue that's coming up a lot, and there are solutions for people in this circumstance. There are many waivers, different waivers available, especially if they're family people and they're married and the spouse is a resident or a citizen, they have children born in the U.S. So. It's something that a lot of my Southeast Asian clients, my Bangladeshi clients worry about, but there are solutions for that. It's not something to necessarily stay in the shadows forever. There are ways that we can resolve that.
Let me tell my audience a little bit about what he said. দর্শক, আপনাদের যদি এই ধরনের কোনো কেস থাকে যারা অলরেডি ডিপোর্টেশন অর্ডার পেয়েছেন অথবা এরকম কোনো সিচুয়েশনে ভুগছেন, তাহলে আপনারা অ্যাটর্নি ক্যারি অথবা অ্যাটর্নি আলিনের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। তাদের নাম্বার স্ক্রিনে আছে। আপনারা যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের ব্যাপারেও তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন, which is very good, and already Kerry বলেছে যে এই অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেশনে ফিয়ার, আমাদের যে ভয়টা যে এখান থেকে ডিপোর্ট হয়ে যাবে, অলদো আপনাদের বাচ্চারা যারা এখানে আছে তাদের সিটিজেনশিপ আছে, তো এই ভয়টা জিরো। সো তারপরেও আপনারা ফার্দার যে কোনো ইনকোয়ারি থাকলে আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। আমি I'll go to Eileen. I just want to know more about your farm, that what kind of cases you basically do for our community, and how many years you have been. I know Kerry is talking about more about cases, but let me hear about your farms, the Bretz Coven.
Well, Bretz Coven has been in business for more than 15 years, and before that we were in practice for an additional 5 years. So we've been doing this for 20 plus years at this point.
Wow, that's great.
And we're a full service immigration law firm. We handle anything and everything immigration related. So we deal with the Department of State and USCIS. We deal with EOIR, we deal with the Department of Labor, and we also deal with the Board of Immigration Appeals and federal court. So if you have an issue that's immigration related, it's most probably that we can help you. So we handle everything from administrative cases to deportation cases to fraud cases, people who've been deported and we bring them back depending on their eligibility. and we help their family as well. So if there's anything we could do, our first course of action is to have a consultation, to meet with us. You meet with a lawyer, not with a paralegal. You meet with a lawyer. We go over your case, and we assess whether we can help you or not.
That's good.
I'm going to jump in. Let me just also add, and I don't mean to brag, but since you brought it up, both Eileen and I and our retired partner, Jules Coven, and the firm have a rating called AV. And this AV rating is a peer rating. It comes from other lawyers, judges, and law professors.
Okay.
That rating is the highest rating that a lawyer can have.
Wow, that's
It's a very small percentage. I don't know if it's 1% or 5% of the lawyers in the U.S., but it is an honor. I'm celebrating my 15th year with it. Eileen has several years with it, but the firm also has that rating. And what that really means is that other lawyers, our peers, and judges and law professors believe that we are at the top of our game.
That's
and
great.
I'm very proud of that. And technically, the A stands for the highest rating you can get for knowledge, and V stands for the highest rating in ethics. So it's both of those, and both Eileen and I are very proud of having that.
Really, we're proud of you guys too. Thank you.
But she wouldn't say it. I have to say it. She's
No,
too humble.
this is really great to know, because most of the farms, we really don't know how they're doing and what's their peer rating is. So it is great to know, and it is a great honor to be with you guys and
I'm glad you
having
have us.
information for our community. So let me tell my audience more about you. অডিয়েন্স দর্শক, আপনারা শুনলেন তাদের মুখেই তাদের ফার্মটি 25 বছরের বেশি তারা এই প্র্যাকটিস করছে, এই চর্চা করছে ইমিগ্রেশন লয়ের উপরে। আপনাদেরকে যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের সুবিধা দেওয়ার জন্য তারা তাদের যে ধরনেরই কেস হোক না কেন আপনাদের, তারা সেই ধরনের কেস হ্যান্ডেল করার ক্ষমতা তাদের আছে, যা তাদের এক্সপেরিয়েন্স থেকে এসছে, which is really a good thing. খুবই ভালো একটা জিনিস। আপনারা যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশন কেস, যে কোনো যত কমপ্লিকেটেড হোক না কেন, আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। ফার্স্ট আপনারা তাদেরকে ফোন করে একটা অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট নেবেন কনসালটেশনের জন্য, অ্যান্ড আপনারা সরাসরি অ্যাটর্নির সাথে কথা বলতে পারবেন, প্যারালিগাল নয়। ওকে, সো
Well, I'll add one other thing. What we're most well known for is complicated immigration cases. So we not only get that from clients coming in on their own, but we get referrals from other immigration attorneys who can't handle certain factors. Yeah, if there's a lot of fraud issues, if there's a lot of prior deportation, multiple names, etc. So we are the go-to firm for other lawyers or for criminal lawyers, other immigration lawyers, criminal lawyers, etc., who want to help their clients out.
ওয়াও, দর্শক, আলিন যেটা বললেন যে তারা শুধুমাত্র তাদের ক্লায়েন্টদেরকেই তারা হ্যান্ডেল করেন না, তারা এবং অন্যান্য লয়ারদের কাছ থেকেও তারা রেফারেলটা পান। যে কোনো কমপ্লিকেটেড ম্যাটার যেটা অন্য লয়ার হ্যান্ডেল করতে পারে না, সেটা তারা হ্যান্ডেল করে থাকেন। সো আপনাদের যদি এরকম কোনো কমপ্লিকেটেড ম্যাটার থাকে, সো দে উইল বি দ্য বেস্ট ওয়ান। তারা সবচেয়ে ভালো হবে আপনাদেরকে সাজেশন দেওয়ার জন্য এবং আপনাদের কেসটাকে হ্যান্ডেল করার জন্য। সো আপনারা যদি চান তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করার জন্য, সো আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। তাদের নাম্বারটি আছে আমাদের স্ক্রিনে শো করছে। সো Carrie, there will be a question from me. It's what is the domestic violence? There are criminal victims of. There are many people who are here. So, is there any cases that they can?
So if you're in, yes, I'm sorry. If you're in the United States and you've been a victim of domestic violence, there are multiple options available to you. So we would actually look at them on a case-by-case basis, but let me explain. You may be eligible for adjustment of status based upon the victim, based upon the abuse you suffered from a spouse. You may be able to just go straight to the Immigration Service and apply for battered spouse petition, and then ultimately a green card. In other cases, you may not be eligible for that, but you may be eligible for what's called a U visa. A U visa, one of our favorite visas in the office, especially Mr. Bretz's. It's a catch-all for those that are victims of crimes. So if you're a victim of a crime, you've suffered a harm, and you've cooperated with the police, you may be eligible for a U visa. There are limitations on which crimes qualify for a U visa, so you need to come and see and assess that. But if you have been a victim of a crime, you report it to the police, and then you've cooperated in whether they arrest anybody or not, but you've been available to cooperate, most likely you can get a U visa signed off by the law enforcement agency, and you may get deferred action with the right to work and ultimately the right to apply for a green card.
So basically, they have a good chance if they're victims of anything.
If they're a victim of a
in-
violent crime, there is a list, a special enumerated list of crimes that you must be a victim of.
Right.
But if you are a victim, you get to apply for this even if you already have a deportation order. Even if you were already deported, you may even apply at the consulate. Maybe you'll be able to come back. Even if you committed fraud and you're ineligible for a green card any other way, you may still be eligible through a U visa. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure, because, you know, I love the U visa. It's my favorite. And Eileen is correct. It's a victim of a violent crime. One reason to do the U visa as opposed to doing the battered spouse petition, which comes from the Violence Against Women's Act, is if the abuser is not your legal husband, it's a boyfriend, a live-in boyfriend, but not legally married, you can't do the VAWA case. You can't do the battered spouse case. You have to do the U visa. It requires that you've reported it to the police. They believe you're credible. They have to sign a certification. And it requires that you were harmed in some way. And there's no statute of limitations. I'm doing U visas for people who have really bad immigration situations where they were victims in the early 90s. And we're doing it. And what else is good about the U visa? Eileen's correct. It kind of trumps everything. You can get the U visa no matter what problems you have unless you're a terrorist. So if you have a drug trafficking case and you were deported from the U.S. and you came back illegally and you caught another drug case, but you're a victim of a violent crime, you can get this U visa, believe it or not. So the U visa is very, very broad. The public policy behind the U visa is to encourage people who are in undocumented, non-legal status to report crimes. And we've seen recently in New York a number of hate crimes being perpetrated on all kinds of folks, but you know, for the interest of this show, there have been a number of Southeast Asians that have been targeted.
Right.
So it's not enough to be the victim of bad words or somebody writing, let's say, graffiti on your property or something like that. But if you're assaulted, if you're coming out of the subway and someone goes to steal your pocketbook or hits you over the back of the head, you can get this U visa. Just quickly, I did one recently for a kid who was beat up in high school. He was a victim of bullying. This is what's so good about the U visa. He's under 21. He's going to get it. His brothers and sisters are going to get it, and so is his parents. And they had no idea. This happened several years ago. I was giving a lecture in the Caribbean community, and they came up and they asked me, and I said, you have your solution right here, the U visa.
Okay, Carrie, we have a caller here. His name is Azhar from New York. Hello, Azhar.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Yes, I have a question
Sure.
about my immigration. That I am in United States for 10 years on withholding of removal. So is there any possibility to get any kind of help in green card?
Okay, so if I have this correctly, you're in the U.S. for 10 years and you already have a removal order.
Withholding.
You got
withholding.
You got withholding. Okay. So withholding is kind of like a consolation
Thank you.
prize. We're not going to give you asylum, but we're going to give you withholding. And unfortunately, withholding is actually a deportation order that's just not being enforced. You really can't take a next step, especially if you initially entered the U.S. unlawfully. But if you got withholding after entering the U.S. on a visa, then it is possible to adjust your status later on through marriage or through some other kind of petition. Withholding is really, it's a consolation prize, unfortunately. However, if you got withholding and you became a victim of a violent crime, just to tie in the original conversation, you could still do a U visa.
Okay, so I guess he hung up. So I guess he got his answer. So what is this U visa actually? Like, what is the?
Yeah, well, I'll go over the U visa again, and then maybe it might be a good idea to translate it for the Bangla speaking client. So the U visa is a visa for victims of violent crimes.
Victims of violent crimes. So it's a direct.
There's a whole list, some that you'll never see, involuntary servitude, kidnapping, but the one that comes up all the time in New York is assault, which is a lesser included crime of a robbery.
So they are eligible to get green card with the U visa?
Correct. Basically, you first get the U visa, which is the right to live and work in the U.S., and then later you can convert that to a green card.
So you basically do the adjustment of status later? Or?
Yeah, right. You have to wait 3 years after you get the U visa, and the U visa has a cap of $10,000 per year. So right now, if you were to apply for a U visa from the beginning, it would probably take about 5 years, but you'd have a work authorization after about a year or a year and a half.
Okay, so we have another caller from Pennsylvania, Misbah. Hello, Misbah.
Hello.
Hello. Ji bolun. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You can ask a question directly.
Okay. বাংলা বলবো না ইংলিশে বলবো?
আচ্ছা বলেন, বাংলায় বলতে পারবেন, কোনো সমস্যা নেই।
ওকে। আমার কি হয়েছে, আমার আব্বু ছিলেন
বলুন।
আমার আব্বু ছিলেন যে ইউএসএ তে আসছিলেন 2005-এ। উনি আসার পর গ্রিন কার্ড হোল্ডার উনি আর বাংলাদেশ চলে গেছিলেন আর আসেন নাই এই দেশে।
আচ্ছা।
আর এখন আমার আম্মুকে সিটিজেনশিপ করেছে, উনি আবার অ্যাপ্লাই করছে ওনার জন্য। তো এইটার জন্য কি কোনো দ্রুত কিছু আছে যে ওনাকে আনার জন্য ইউএসএ তে?
আচ্ছা, আপনার আম্মা সিটিজেন হয়ে আপনার আব্বার জন্য আবার অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছে?
জি।
ওকে, সো কোনো দ্রুত কোনো প্রসিজার আছে কিনা সেটা জানতে চাচ্ছেন?
জি।
Okay. Basically, his question is, thank you, Misbah. আমি আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনটা ট্রান্সলেট করছি। His question is like his father came into United States. He was a green card holder while he came in 2005. Then he left the country and he never came back. So now his mother is a citizen and she applied for the father. So is there any faster process or something? So I don't think so there.
No, it's going to go through the normal processing time. If he's out of the country, the first step is the visa petition. That takes approximately 6 to 9 months. Once the visa petition is approved, they forward it to the National Visa Center to start scheduling it for consular processing. You're looking at about a year and a half. Could be 2 years. It all depends on the consulate in Bangladesh.
Let me add one other question with it. Like, is there any complications that because he left the country with a green card and then he never come back? So,
No, he will have no negative impact that he had a green card and then abandoned it. As long as he didn't commit any fraud or it wasn't deported. If he was, then you'll have to see if any waivers are going to be necessary. But if he had a green card, left, decided not to come back and abandoned it, there's no problem with this application.
Okay, Misbah, আপনার প্রশ্নটির উত্তর হচ্ছে যে আপনার মা যে অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছে সেটা নর্মাল প্রসেসে বিকজ উনি সিটিজেন, সো এখানে আর কোনো ফাস্টার কোনো প্রসেস নেই, কারণ সিটিজেনদের জন্য কোনো যেটা নর্মাল প্রসেস আপনার 1 থেকে 1.5 বছরের মধ্যে আপনার ফাদার এখানে আসতে পারবে, তার জন্য অন্য কোনো কমপ্লিকেশনসও নেই, সো আপনারা নিশ্চিত থাকতে পারেন। Okay, we have another caller, Adiha from Michigan. Hello, Adiha.
Yes, hello. I'm Adiha.
Yes.
I have an uncle who came here about 10 years ago on an I-20 student visa. And now that he's done with his learning here, they gave him about a year to find a job. And if he doesn't find a job, how can he legally still stay?
Right. So I understood the
yes,
question.
okay.
Right. So your uncle had.
Thank you, Adina.
Yeah. So when you come here on a student visa and you complete your studies, you get what's called optional practical training, which sounds like he had it. If during that year of optional practical training you don't find an employer willing to petition for you for your H or potentially for a green card, then you will become out of status. As a student, you get 60 days in which you have to leave the country after your F1 student status is expired. Now, luckily from Bangladesh, if you don't have an employer willing to file an H-1B, you may want to start your own business. You have the option to invest. And unlike an investor visa, this investment is under the E2 Treaty Investor Visa. So he can start any business at all he would like, as long as he owns at least 50% of the business. And he shows that he uses his own funds, puts them at risk, and he starts the business. Initially, when it's a brand new business, it's a lot easier to get those visas as long as you show you're starting a business, you have a location, you have a lease, you have a business plan, and you put your money at risk. You get a visa for 2 to 4 years, and then you need to renew it. It's renewable indefinitely. There's no end to the E2 visa unless the business closes.
Wow.
And this is special for Bangladesh, really for Southeast Asia. India doesn't get
Right.
the right to do this.
These visas are only available for countries that have a treaty agreement with the United States. And there's only 100 and something countries that might have it. No, not even 100, I think, that have the agreement. But again, for Southeast Asia, yes, Bangladesh is one of few.
And
that's a good
also,
answer.
unlike the normal investment visa that people talk about, the EB-5, this doesn't require an investment of $500,000 or
No.
$1 million.
The investment amount depends on the business that you're going to start. So it could be under 100,000. It could be, you could start it with 50,000.
Could I do it if I was to buy, let's say, a licensed green taxi in New York?
So basically,
No.
you're saying like
Then
there
you
is no
couldn't do
minimum?
it. You can't. There's no minimum, but immigration is going to look very closely at it. They want to see that you're investing your money, so they need to see that some funds are at risk. So if you're going to start something that has no money down, guaranteed it's probably going to get denied, or requests for evidence are going to be issued and take forever, and they might have to leave anyway.
Okay.
But what you do need to show is that it will ultimately be a business that's going to add to the economy. How is it going to add to the economy? You're going to have to hire somebody,
Right.
ultimately. It doesn't have to start out that way. But if it's a one-man show like a taxi, that would be very hard to prove that, you're going to support multiple people. Maybe you can support 3 people, and maybe there is an issue there. I said no right away, but you'd have to be able to show that's a huge investment. You might as well go for the
What about a small
EB-5.
candy store with newspapers
Okay.
or something like that, which a lot of Bangladeshi people do?
Yeah, you definitely can. You can buy an existing business, but if you buy an existing business, the business had to have been owned by a Bangladeshi, or
Right.
you would have to convert it to
Absolutely.
a
And it's a
Bangladeshi
great
owner.
opportunity also. So, দর্শক, আপনারা যারা Bretz Coven LLP-তে আপনারা অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট করতে চান, আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে চান, আপনারা তাদের ইনফরমেশন স্ক্রিনে দেখতে পাচ্ছেন। আপনারা প্লিজ তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন আপনাদের যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের সমস্যা নিয়ে, যে কোনো ধরনের যত কমপ্লিকেটেড কেসই হোক না কেন, আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। তাদের নাম্বার আপনাদের স্ক্রিনে এবং তাদের ইনফরমেশন আপনাদের স্ক্রিনেই শো করছে। সো আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। The next caller. Okay, we have a caller from Pennsylvania, Fiaz. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Fiaz, how are you?
Fine. আমি রিয়াজ বলছিলাম।
জি বলেন, আপনি বাংলায় বলতে পারেন অথবা আপনি
হ্যাঁ
আচ্ছা
বাংলায় বল।
আচ্ছা বলেন।
আমি পেনসিলভেনিয়া থেকে।
জি বলেন।
আমি একজন ইমিগ্রেন্ট ভিসা হোল্ডার।
বলুন।
আমি একজন ইমিগ্রেন্ট ভিসা হোল্ডার, তো আমার গ্রিন কার্ড আছে। তো আমি রিসেন্টলি বাংলাদেশ যেতে চাচ্ছি আর কি।
আচ্ছা।
তো বাংলাদেশকে আমি মানে কতদিনে এক্স্যাক্টলি থাকতে পারবো আর কি, এই গ্রিন কার্ড নিয়ে আর কি এইটা।
আচ্ছা, so thank you. His question is, he is a green card holder. He wants to travel to Bangladesh, and how long he can stay.
This is a good question, and it kind of tied in with the question that someone asked earlier about the person who kind of gave up their green card. And this question comes up all the time. What are the residency requirements when you have a green card? And the rule is basically that you have to make the U.S. your primary home. You can go outside of the U.S. and you go outside of the U.S. for extended periods, but you need to make the U.S. your primary home.
Right.
If you stay out of the U.S. for more than a year, there is a presumption that you have abandoned your green card, but one in which you can overcome. So the immigration courts always look at what the person's intention was when they left the U.S. So if the person bought a one-way ticket to Dhaka or went somewhere in Bangladesh, sold all their property in New York, emptied their bank accounts, and then 3 years